is what the A would stand for. The B is things that typical boil, like oils, gasoline, some of your kitchen oils and things like that. And then the C is anything with a current. So if you have an electrical fire, or the B and C fires, those are very important fires not to spray water on typically. Electrical fires, if you spray water on it, it will travel through the water and it'll electrocute you. So you don't want to use water on those. And most boiling liquid fires are like kitchen grease fires. And if you use water on those, it makes the fire even bigger. And there's many videos online. If you're ever curious someday, you can type in kitchen grease fires and it'll show you what can happen if you add just the slightest amount of water to a kitchen grease fire. We actually have a trailer coming to Bemidji here in a couple of weeks, and at our open house, it shows an actual fireball coming out with a kitchen mock-up, and we get grease on fire hot enough to where it ignites to itself, and then we pour just 1 cup of water on it, and it sends a fireball about 7-8 feet out of the fire just by adding 1 cup of water. So it's very important that you know what's on fire if you're going to choose to put it out yourself. And extinguishers are mainly for the beginning stages of fire. So if you come up to a fire and it's more than just a couple feet high and it's starting to go up to the wall and across the ceiling, chances are your extinguisher is not going to put it completely out. Okay, so what we always like to say is if you do have a fire, is to call 911 first and get us rolled, because that saves minutes. If you wait until, I can get this one pulled off and call the department, and you don't get it out, that's that much time that was wasted. We could have been here. And luckily, we're only a few minutes away when we use lights and sirens. I heard him mention pulling a fire alarm. When we go to fire alarms, we don't use lights and sirens unless we're notified that there's actually something on fire. Because we go to fire alarms almost on a daily basis, especially when BSU starts back up here in a couple of weeks. Our truck will be at BSU probably every day with false alarm fires, kids horsing around, or cooking fires. So that's the reason why we don't use lights and sirens, because the majority of them are false and we don't want to put anybody in danger going to them. So just be aware of that. If you do see fire and you just pull the alarm and not call, our time won't be as quick getting here. It'll take us a little bit longer. But if you actually call and say there is fire, we're here within minutes. Bemidji's downtown station is staffed 24 hours a day with full-time firefighters. The other 2 stations are not, but obviously we're only a few blocks away. So with the extinguisher, the size of it, this sounds funny, the size of your extinguisher matters, okay, because obviously it holds amount of chemical. Extinguishers are a dry chemical, and the more that's in there, the more fire you can put out. And if you look real closely, and next to the ABC, there's numbers, and that number just correlates to how much fire that will put out. Okay, so again, here it's nice because there's sprinkler systems. A lot of times, those sprinkler systems will do the majority of the work. When we show up, if you can contain that fire to one room, the sprinkler system will keep it at bay until we can come in, and most of the times it even puts it out unless it's fueled by some other source like gas or something like that. So that's the nice part about here. But if you find like a garbage can on fire or the cigarette holder outside, if those catch fire, because they do all the time, that's where extinguisher come in handy, or if someone threw a cigarette in that garbage can, an extinguisher would come in handy. But again, if you have a huge fire, a room full engulfed, it's probably not going to do it. If you have a vehicle that's on fire in your parking lot, you might be able to, again, if it's in the very beginning, be able to put out with the extinguisher. This is a fairly good sized one, so it might work. A lot of times the cops will show up to our vehicle fires and they'll use extinguisher after extinguisher and we'll put it out. And we come and we kind of chuckle at them and say, this is our job. And we'll put it out. But just be careful. Fire extinguisher chemicals are corrosive to paint jobs and metals. So if you leave it on there long enough, it will start to pit the metal and paint. So if like today, there's no cars around, but if we were to get a car full of extinguisher dust, we'd have to rinse that off. It isn't very harmful for you. I've been shot point blank in the mouth with an extinguisher and inhaled it all, and yeah, don't ask, long story. And, silly guys at the station. But I'm okay, so nothing happened to me. But when you do inhale it, you might get some back today when we're actually putting out the fire. Don't be alarmed, it just tastes really nasty, so it won't hurt you. So back to what I said, know what's on fire because you want to make sure that you're using the right extinguisher. And you have an ABC extinguisher that's going to cover most of your fires. Kitchen fires is where you might run into some issues, and I'm not sure if the kitchens here have K extinguishers. They might, I'm guessing they do. It's a specific extinguisher designed for kitchen grease fires. And it's not powder, but it's like a liquid chemical. Yeah, it sounds opposite of what I've just been telling you, but it cools the fire and it just kind of spreads itself out over the top. So it doesn't like get rid of, fire needs three things. It needs oxygen, it needs heat, and it needs the fuel that it's actually burning. So extinguishers take away one of those things. Usually powder extinguishers are usually taking away the oxygen from the fire. So that's another thing, if you have like a small puddle of something on fire, like gas or whatever, and you put it out with the extinguisher, it's because it's got a nice coating of this dust all over it. If you happen to step through it, and it's going to disturb that layer, it can reignite because it's still hot. It can reignite around your feet, and that's not a good idea. So when you're going to fight a fire, once you know that you can take care of it, you've called 911, you want to keep a safe distance from the fire. You don't want to go running right up to it and then shoot. You never know what might happen. There might be a canister or something that can explode, all the worst case scenario type of thing. And you always want to leave an exit. You don't want to put yourself in a position to where you're trying to put out this fire and then it gets away from you and you have no way out. Right? So make sure there's nothing between you and the exit. And that's a common mistake. There's a little saying that we use, it's called PASS, and it's pull the pin. As simple as it sounds, even in training after I've sat up here and poured you for 15 minutes, people will forget to pull the pin. And they're going up there and they're trying to squeeze. It won't work unless this pin's on. Okay? And then you're going to want to aim. A common mistake is people aim at the flames because they think, oh, that's what I want to put out. You want to put out what's burning. The flames isn't. If you shoot this powder, it's such a fine, light powder. If you shoot it at the flames, the heat from the fire will take most of the powder up and away, and it won't even touch what's on fire. It'll just continue to burn. So you want to aim what's actually on fire, and as you're approaching, you can even start just before it, and then just work your way. And it's squeeze, it's pretty simple, and sweep. Kind of work back and forth, so you're covering both sides of the fire. Because again, you can actually push the fire around a little bit, depending on what it is. If it's a big enough fire, there's enough pressure coming out of this nozzle, it can push around. So you kind of want to squeeze and sweep. And always maintain a safe distance. You never want to get real close. Because, like I said, bad things can happen. Even us, when we're taught inside structure fires, we never get real close to what's on fire, unless we know for sure that it's on. But we have this special gear.
Because the fire extinguisher is combustible, would it still blow up at it and put it up the tank?
You would have to heat up quite a bit, and then the pressure, like if it's hot enough where this is going to explode, you're
not going to be standing
You're not
there.
going to be standing there. You're going to be dead. You're going to take one breath of that air, it's going to kill you. So that's another thing too. That smoke, if it's hot enough, that black smoke that comes off fires, that's why we say don't go after the big ones. The black smoke is unburned fuel, and once it gets hot enough, it will ignite. We'll be in rooms where it's nothing but black smoke, and if we're not wary of what we're doing, that entire room can ignite on us. So we're trained to watch out for that. But also we have the gear that keeps us safe from the high temps. If it's hot where you gotta look away from the fire, chances are it's gonna be too big for your extinguisher to put in. I'm not sure what size extinguishers you guys have here. I'm assuming this size since that's what the car has. Another thing too, maintenance should always check these monthly. They get serviced every year, and then every 6 years they get completely broken down and checked all over. It might be getting out of a car accident. Somebody just pulled out in front of somebody else. That's what that loud smash was. It didn't sound terrible though. It sounded like Fender better more than anything. So,
Driving away.
driving away.
Did you even drive?
Where was I? If like I said, if it's too hot, chances are this isn't going to do the trick. So just be careful. These are really meant for, like I said, small fires and the beginning stages, not fires that are advancing and going to other rooms and things like that. Does anybody have questions on the fire extinguisher? Well, I was talking about maintenance. Like I said, make sure that there should be tags on. This one has a collar. This is probably a service collar that it was done back in 2015. This is probably the yearly service collar that people put on. It's so they can't get pulled off very easily. But there should be monthly records usually hanging on them somewhere that the maintenance guy goes, and it's just simple, making sure it's in the green. And you should do that too before you go use it to fight a fire, because you can have a fully loaded extinguisher. It's got the powder. Let me check. I can hear this one. The powder's loose. Sometimes too, that if they're not maintained properly, the powder will get caked in the bottom and it won't come out.
So should you tip them up once in a while?
Maintenance should every month when they go
What
along.
about the
check
one
out.
you have in your house?
The ones in your house, yep, same thing. They should.
tip them up once in a while?
You should check them once in a while. If you move it, you can slowly hear the powder sifting around in there. And then if it's not moving around, you could just kind of tip it upside down. If you have like a rubber ball or something, or even just kind of smacking it around a little bit, will loosen that powder. Because after time, it does. It just cakes down. And it could have the pressure could be in the green, but it won't work because the powder can't come up. It's just caked in it. But the big thing is make sure it's in the green, because even with a fully charged extinguisher, they don't last very, very long. Anywhere from 5 to 30 seconds. It really depends. Today, when we're using them, it probably only take 2 or 3 extinguishers to go through this group. I see we got a bunch, but they're really effective if you use them right. Again, hitting what's on fire, not the fire, and that's the biggest mistake I see when we do these trainings. Even after I mention it a couple times, people will still walk up. And the fire we do today it's not big, it's not scary, but it's propane and just kind of makes a loud noise and might freak out a little bit, but this puts it out very quickly. And that's another thing too. If you have like I don't see the gas meter, not that you would mess around with the gas meter that's on fire, but if you have a gas propelled like a fire, sometimes it's better to let them burn because you put them out and then all that gas floats around and builds up. So there's little things like that to think of. So most of the times it's just easier calling 911 and letting us worry about it, unless you can put out the small ones. Okay? Any fire safety questions or other extinguisher questions that I can answer for you before I go get the stuff? All right. Well, it's going to take me a little bit to pull around back.